This video is going to show you guys how to take a piece of paper, which is actually a foldable, and then go ahead and put it together in your notebook that you have for math. Mine says PBL. For some of the other stuff, I'm going to use this as an example. You guys should have a notebook that you are using strictly for math work, homework, warm-ups, whatever it is that we're doing that day. It can be a composition notebook, spiral notebook, or paper in a binder. But if you are just using loose leaf paper and it doesn't have a home, you're not going to have a place to put your foldable, and you're going to fall behind. So make sure you're fixing that. You're going to take your paper that I've handed out at this point, or I'm about to give you, and the side that says glue here is what we're eventually going to be gluing down or taping down into our notebooks. For now, what I'm going to do is anywhere there's these dotted lines, I'm just going to fold. So I know you can't watch me fold, but I'm going to hold it up when I'm done. It's pretty self-explanatory. Hopefully y'all can handle this. All right, so that first one, and it's not probably perfect, and that's okay. May not be completely lined up on both sides. I just have that. And I'm actually going to cut this flap right here. Sorry, reaching for scissors. So in between those, that dotted line here, that I am going to cut. That is the only thing you are going to have to cut today. So then you've got a flap for changing terminating decimals to fractions. And then you've got a flap from just fractions to decimals, so doing the opposite. All right, so you got two flaps. And then I'm going to go to the opposite side here, and I'm going to fold again. So I'm folding that up. So now the only thing, I did not do that very straight. If you're a perfectionist, it may take you a few more times. The only thing I should see on this side now is glue here, and that's what's going to go down. I'm not going to actually glue or tape it down until we're finished, just so it's easier to write, add color, highlight, whatever you're going to choose to do to make this easy to navigate. So on the very top, I've got my from repeating decimals to fractions, and then that flips open this way, and I can actually still read that, which is nice. So as it opens, I can still read it. And then I'm going to fill out those steps. And we're going to do that last because that's probably the hardest thing that we've done so far. So I'm going to start with my baby flaps up here. So I'm going to use my whiteboard to help me out. We are going to start with changing a fraction to a decimal. And if you guys want to take a marker or a highlighter that you have, a fraction to a decimal. So they're a little lighter in color. I'm underlining those as my keywords. And then when I go across here, I'm going to keep the same theme of underlining my terminating decimals in blue and fractions in pink, so I'm color coordinating my notes so it's easy to follow. So fraction and terminating decimals, and then terminating decimals to fractions, just kind of matching my colors up so it's easier as a study tool. So fraction to decimal, I'm going to flip that one up. To change a fraction to a decimal, divide the blank by the blank. All right, so you have two parts of a fraction, top and bottom. Those are your generic words. Our math vocabulary words that we're going to be using is divide the top, which is the numerator. So divide the numerator by the denominator. All right, beauty of this being on a video is that you can pause this and write down these words if you need more time. I'm going to keep on rolling. So change the numerator to the denominator, or divide the numerator by the denominator, and then we're going to do two examples in that little box. So you might want to write smaller if you write large, and practice our division skills together one final time. Anything that's on this foldable is fair game for your quiz tomorrow. All right. I naturally chose the marker that does not erase well, which is awesome. All right. So our first example is going to be 3/4. Now, a lot of you might have that one memorized, but this is an easy one to practice our division with because it's so common. Top dog in the house. So that means it goes in your division, and then the 4 is on the outside. 4 will not go into 3, so I'm going to put my 0. And I'm out of numbers that were provided, so now I will continue bringing down zeros until I have a decimal that stops or I recognize the repetition. All right, sorry, I thought there was going to be an announcement. 4 goes into 30 7 whole times. If you do 8, you get 32, so it's too big. 7 times 4 is 28, so I'm going to subtract that, and I get 2. 4 will not go into 2, so I'm going to bring down another 0. 4 goes into 20 5 times. 5 times 4 is 20. That's why it was so easy to come up with so quickly. When you get 0 down here, that means that you are done. So this is your work showing me that 3/4 is equal to 0.75. So that's your first example. My second example is going to be a mixed number that I'm going to do. So I'm going to do 6 7/8. All right. So 6 times 8 is 48. 48 plus 7 gives me 55. 48 plus 7, 55. If I'm wrong, somebody call me out when you're watching this. Top dog in the house. So 55 goes on the inside and 8 goes on the outside. Notice the number inside is bigger than what's on the outside, and that was not the case above. That doesn't determine it. It matters just how it's set up. 8 will not go into 5. 8 will go into 55. 8 times 6 is 48. 8 times 7 is 56. So I'm going to have to use 6. So minus 48 leaves me with 7. All right. 8 goes into 70. Let's see. 8 times 8 is 64. Minus 64. All right. 10, I get 6. Bring down a 0. 8 goes into 60. 8 times 8 is 64, so 8 times 7 is 56. So I'm running out of room here, so minus 56 gives me 4. I'm going to have to bring down another 0, and this is not ideal organization, but we improvise when we run out of room. 8 goes into 45 times evenly, luckily, because I'm about out of space here, and that gives me 0. So then my final answer, and hopefully somebody can notice where I messed up in my work up here. I didn't ever bring my decimal there, and that's a problem. I was only given 55. I was not given all 3 of those zeros. I should have added my decimal point right there. So my final answer is 6.875. So at the end, if you're changing a fraction to a decimal, but there's no decimal in your answer, we probably just forgot to add it. But we can quickly go ahead and figure out where that should have went rather than needing to rework that. If you don't keep your work lined up or organized, then we may have to go back and rework it. All right, so all of that work hopefully fit in this tab on your paper. And so you have that all there. All right, so tab 1 is done. And we're going to move over to the second tab, terminating decimals to a fraction. So we're doing the opposite now. So I have this tab done. And now closing that, I'm looking over here. Terminating decimals to a fraction. All right, so read the blank using the correct blank. How you say it determines the fraction. So read well, we're given, what are we given? We're given a decimal. So read the decimal, whatever that decimal may be, using the correct place value. Mine went down to another line. Yours hopefully all fits straight across on that line. Again, this is your opportunity to pause and write down everything you need if that is going too fast for you to write. How you say the answer determines your fraction, how you set it up, and what the denominator is. So if, for example, if I give you 0.52, 5 is in the tenths place, 2 is in the hundredths place. So I would say this as 52 hundredths. I literally just said my fraction, 52 over 100. Perfect. Now, you guys know this is not your final answer. Here's what I need to see is how you reduce it. Let's say you don't realize that 4 will go into both of these and you just say, they're both even, I'm just going to do 2. Okay, I'm with you. 52 divided by 2 gives me 26. 100 divided by 2 gives me 50. Do not stop here. The issue is they're both still even. So 2 can go into them again. 26 divided by 2 gives me 13. 50 divided by 2 gives me 25. 13 is prime, so I know that I'm done. You could have divided by 4 right away and not had to do 2 steps. But if you cannot think of the larger number first, it's okay. You just have a few more steps to get to your final answer. All right, so your first 2 tabs should be done. pause, take a minute, make sure you're caught up if I'm going too quickly for you. I'm going to transition to the middle section here. Let me get my foldable here. So your 2 tabs here are done. I'm going to check this before you get your study guide, so you're going to need to make sure that it's meeting my expectations, or you're going to have to go back and do it again, which will be super fun. Place value 843 and 18 hundredths. Because the last decimal place that we're filling is in the hundredth, I say hundredths. So at the bottom, you're going to fill that in, and it's going to say read as 843. And this and is in place of where your decimal point goes. That point is supposed to be like your decimal, helping you remember that. 18, you determine what you say after 18 based on how long it is. If it just had 1 digit, you would say tenths, 2 digits, hundredths, 3 digits, thousandths, 4 digits, 10,000ths. And that's on your notes sheet here so you can remember those. So I'm going to actually just write hundreds. And it's not hundred and when it add an S, hundredths. You put a TH on the end and then S. So you're filling in those 2 pieces underneath that middle section. And that's all you have to do, is just tell me how you would actually say that so we're practicing correctly. All right, pause if you need to. We're going on to the bottom section on repeating decimals turning into fractions, the newest and most challenging thing that we've learned so far, in my opinion. So I am giving you the example of 0.18 repeating. Okay, so first thing you're going to do, x equals 0.18 repeating. And I don't love the way it's typed. The 0 is not repeating. It just is a little unformatted with how it's lined up. 1/8 is what is repeating. And if that's confusing you, white it out, rewrite it so you're clear on that. So number 1, let the variable x equal the decimal you were given. So you are writing this on step 1. Let the variable x equal the decimal. Pause if you need to. I'm going on to step 2. Once you've set it equal to x, you are going to ask yourself, how many digits repeat? So you have a 1 and an 8 that are repeating. So you have 2 digits repeating. So 2 digits would be the hundredths place. So in this case, you are going to need to multiply by 100. So this is a generic set of directions for your notes. So you multiply each side by the number, hashtag or pound symbol for number of digits that repeat. And then that could be 10, 100, or 1,000. And that could be many options. So that's your longest explanation we're going to have to write. So they have written and typed in your notes, they multiplied both sides by 100x, or 100. 100 times x gave them 100x. 100 times 0.181818 gave them 18.181818 repeating, and so on. All right, if you had 3 digits repeating, you would multiply by 1,000. If you have 1 digit repeating, you multiply by 10. All right, pause if you need to. I'm moving on. Looking at number 3, you have to now line up the 2 equations and subtract. All right, so I'm going to model this as they have it in your notes. So 100 times x gave them 100x from step 2. 0.18 repeating times 100 gave them 18.18 repeating. So now you subtract those 2 equations from one another. Minus x, which equals 0.18 repeating. Remember how I always would add a 1 here? In your book, it uses in as a variable. Here, it's using x. It means the same thing.